Yeah.
Welcome to GRCNA 40, Lost Dreams Awaken, into our workshop, Parenthood in Recovery. Since GRCNA 40 is the Georgia region's first hybrid convention, allow me to address the issue of anonymity for those joining us online. When joining a virtual meeting, you need to keep your video turned off to guarantee your anonymity. If you turn your video on, you're choosing to be seen by other participants. You can also change your name or switch the first name plus the last initial to protect your identity. Let's open with a moment of silence.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Welcome to the Georgia region's first hybrid convention, GRCNA 40 Lost Dreams Awaken. Our intention for this convention is to make available to our fellowship a weekend of recovery, celebration, and fun. We hope that all addicts received in a message of recovery while they are participating in this event. It is our hope that the message we carry may truly let everyone know that NA is a place to recover, and that no addict seeking recovery need die from addiction. These are the workshop participation guidelines. If you are joining us virtually, please dress appropriately on camera. Please keep your microphone on mute unless you are asked to unmute by the host or co-host. If you have a question or need general assistance during the workshop, please contact the host or one of the co-hosts via direct message in chat. If there is time after our workshop speakers finish, you may have an opportunity to share your experience, strength, and hope on the workshop topic. If you would like to share virtually, please raise your hand. Your virtual can be raised by going to the actions icon on your computer or by going to the more section on your phone. If you would like to share in person, please raise your hand. You will be asked to come up to a microphone and camera so that those at home can hear and see you. The virtual host and co-host, and I will attempt to maintain the queue correctly. Your kindness and patience will be greatly appreciated. Please limit your share to 3 to 4 minutes. I've asked volunteers to do our readings. How it works? Go there.
Gotta come up to the mic.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, my name is Carrie and I'm an addict.
Hi, Carrie.
Carrie, this is how it works. If you all have to offer and are willing to make the effort to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. These are the principles that made our recovery possible. 1, we admitted that we were powerless over addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we are entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, we humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to addicts and practice these principles in all our affairs. It sounds like a big order and we can't do it all at once. We didn't become addicted in one day, so remember, easy does it. There's one thing more than anything else that will defeat us in our recovery. This is an attitude of indifference. Or intolerance towards spiritual principles. 3 of these that are indispensable are honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. With these, we are well on our way. We feel that our approach to the disease of addiction is completely realistic, for the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. We feel that our way is practical, for one addict can best understand and help another addict. We believe that the sooner we face our problems within our society, in everyday living, just that much faster do we become acceptable, responsible, and productive members of that society. The only way to keep from returning to active addiction is not to take that first drug. If you are like us, you know that one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. We put great emphasis on this, but we know that when we use drugs in any form or substitute one for another, we release our addiction all over again. Thinking of alcohol as different from other drugs has caused a great many addicts to relapse. Before we came into NA, many of us viewed alcohol separately, but we cannot afford to be confused about this. Alcohol is a drug. We are people with a disease of addiction who must abstain from all drugs in order to recover.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've asked another addict to read the 12 traditions.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kevin, and I'm an addict.
Hey,
Kevin.
We keep what we have only with vigilance, and just as freedom for the individual comes from the 12 steps, so freedom for the group springs from our traditions. As long as the ties that bind us together are stronger than those that would tear us apart, all will be well. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on NA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or NA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry the message to the addict who still suffers. 6, an NA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the NA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, or prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every NA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Narcotics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, NA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Narcotics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the NA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need to always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. And 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personality.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
I'm Jeannie, I'm still an addict.
Hey,
I'm
Jeannie.
asking for forgiveness if I say this thing wrong. Our scheduled speakers for this workshop are Maura
That's very good.
and
Yeah.
Andrew G. If there's any extra time after the speakers, allow in-person and online participants to share.
Okay. Serious. You want me to go first?
Ladies first.
Oh, of course.
Sorry, Maura.
Hi, my name is Maura and I'm an addict.
Hey, Maura.
I was not nervous until like I sat down and then like I calmed down and then they started doing the readings and then my heart started racing. So just bear with me. I'm very honored to be here. I'm very grateful to Narcotics Anonymous. It's because Narcotics Anonymous, I'm sitting in this chair speaking with you guys right now. So I'll just kind of give you like a little bit of background. So like where, like how my parents parented me and like where my parenting was in my active addiction to like where it is now in my recovery. So like growing up, my parents are still together. So like, in this day and age, that's very, very rare. So I had my mom and I had my dad, and one of the things that really sticks out to me growing up, and something that like I struggle with today and continue to work on, is like expressing how I feel. My household, you know, it isn't till now, like dealing with a lot of loss in our family over the past couple of years and even past couple of weeks, that we say, I love you. It was just kind of like understood, you know what I mean? Like, I know my parents love me and I know they loved me then, you know, but it wasn't something that we verbalized on a daily basis. My parents weren't the people that I would go to confide in when I was feeling X, Y, and Z. So growing up, I learned early to like, I just kind of bottled stuff up and just kind of kept going, you know. Growing up, I journaled a lot. Like I would love to go back and look at those journals, but Lord have mercy. But that's how I dealt with my feelings. And obviously, I'm sitting in this chair right now, so I didn't really know how to deal with my feelings. And one of the things that I've learned, like my parents did the best that they could with what they had, you know what I mean? And I see a lot of time, like breaking those generational curses. So I'll get to that, but that's kind of how I grew up. Didn't really express how I felt, love was understood. My dad was definitely more affectionate than my mom. Like I still to this day don't really hug my mom. It feels awkward. Like we always do like the side hug. I don't know, but I know my mom loves me, like, and I love my mom, but that's just the household that I grew up in. So when I was, growing up, I always wanted kids. I wanted 3. And then as I got older, I was like, I want 2. And now I have 1 and I'm like, I'm good. Like, I'm good. So my addiction was rooted a lot in my relationship with my ex-husband. We used together, it was very toxic. And lo and behold, we were together for like 13 years. We got married after being together for 10. We were married for a year, and then I wound up pregnant. When I found out I was pregnant, that was like the first, like I had just dipped my foot like into that downward spiral. It was becoming like my drug of choice was starting to become a habitual habit. And I found out I was pregnant and I stopped everything, and he was supposed to have stopped everything. Come to find out he didn't, but that's my story. I didn't use when I was pregnant. And that's just that, I had his due date was November 5th. He was born on November 4th. I'm very blessed. I didn't have a complicated pregnancy. Everything went good. I got huge, but that was like that was the only thing. But when he was born, I remember that the obsessive and compulsive thoughts of using came back. And he might have been 3 weeks or 4 weeks old, and I started using again. And I didn't breastfeed, but I would pump. So I would use, and then I would have to pump and dump, and then I wouldn't use, and then I would use, and I have to pump and dump. And then I said, this shit is stupid. So I just quit breastfeeding. I quit pumping. That was the first time I chose drugs over my child. I was like, I don't want to have to keep doing this. So I want to keep using. And it was, I've heard a lot of people say, when they stop using and then they pick back up right where they left off. And that is exactly what happened. When I stopped using, I had my toe in that downward spiral. When I picked back up, my whole body was in it. I was using, and my drug of choice, it gave me I was basically, quote unquote, a glorified single mom. Like I was with his dad, but I was doing everything. I was taking care of him. I was putting him to sleep, and the little shit never wanted to go to sleep, but I wanted him to go to sleep so I could use in peace. You know what I mean? Like that just sticks out in my head. I remember we had a group of people over our house. Everyone was out there partying, and I was in the room with him trying to fucking get him to sleep. And all I could think about was like, God, I just want you to go to sleep so I can fucking go out there and use with everybody. So that was that. And, it just got worse and worse and worse. And then shit between me and his father just took off way into left field. And it wasn't until I got clean that I realized how codependent I was. And when that relationship started to unravel, that is when my sole focus was on using and trying to keep my husband at that time, who was, very toxic, very mentally abusive. But I remember, like, we were living with my parents, and then we moved out, and we were living in an extended stay. I am very blessed. DFACS is not a part of my story, but I got threatened with DFACS by my parents, by his parents. And I remember right before I just like landed face first into rock bottom, my mom was like, if you're, I'm gonna call DFACS and this, that, and the other. So I went home, handed my son to her, and left. And that shit still just, I wanted it. What he wasn't important to me at the time. You know what I mean? He just wasn't. And that's just the reality of where my addiction had taken me. I was willing to just hand him over and go do what I wanted to do. So that was when I finally stepped away from my ex and moved back in with my parents. That's the first time the drugs stopped working. I was using and I was not feeling any different. I was using and still feeling like shit. I was using, I could not function not using and using. It was just, that was where I was at that point in my life. And I was just talking to Andrew before the meeting started, and my son's birthday is November 4th and my clean date is November 10th. That just gave me goosebumps. I remember like the first realization of like, I can't do this shit anymore is, and I tell this when I tell my story, I was getting ready to go out. At this point, my parents, my parents had him, his other grandparents had him. I couldn't honestly really tell you where he was at any particular moment. But at that point he was with me, we were at my parents' house, and I was getting ready to go out, and he was sitting on the bed and I was sitting on the floor doing my makeup, and he was so happy, like just joyous and free, you know what I mean? And I looked at him and I just was like, I can't even fake it anymore. I just can't even fake it. And so we had his first birthday party at Red Robin, because I didn't have the ability to plan anything. Like my mom, threw it together last minute. And I think that is something why birthdays with him are so important to me. Because I couldn't do it. And it was a week after that I went to rehab. So that brings us to now. So I try not to parent out of guilt. And I know a lot of other people may experience that, like you're using and you just have all this guilt and shame of how you might have treated, but like how I might have treated my son when I was using. So I try not to parent out of guilt, because at the end of the day, like that's not doing him any good. But what recovery has given me is given me the ability to parent him the way my parents were unable to parent me. I am very much like, when he is angry, it's one of those things like, I understand you're angry and it is okay to be angry, but why are you angry? Like, those are the things that I ask him. But I couldn't do that without recovery. Like that is like I take what I've learned from Narcotics Anonymous and try to carry that on through him, because I am an addict. His father is an addict, although he will never fucking admit it, is an addict as well. So there's that fear that he's already predispositioned to this disease. And I just, and it's it's all about feelings. That's, at least it is for me, not being able to process how I feel. So that's how, I parent him today. I do my best. Also trying to balance like life and parenting and recovery on top of that is something that I struggle with on a daily basis. But it's one of those things, like I can't, without this, without recovery, without this convention, without my network, my sponsor, the 12 steps, I could not do anything. You know what I mean? Like this is my foundation for my entire life. It starts here and it goes outward. So parenthood and recovery for me is learning how to better myself in order to better my son. And not just my son, but like the people around me. You know what I mean? You know, we can't keep it unless we give it away. And I'm a firm believer in that. And it's not just to the fellow addict who's sitting next to us or across from it, but I think it's to everybody. In my opinion, everybody could benefit from a 12-step fucking program. I'm just saying. Just saying, you know, and I'm truly blessed to be able to be a part of a 12-step program and to be able to look inward. And just to be able to share that with my son. Today, I am present as much as I can be. I'm not perfect. You know, we were just talking about my son is very much talkative. He's very loquacious. And I have to catch myself because he'll just be like, mama, 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 right? Right? Is that right? And it's just, you know, and I find like, I'm just like I can feel like it bubbling up, but I have to like step back and take a second and realize like, he's only 6. Like he doesn't know, he thinks I know everything. Like, and I don't, but he think like to him, I know everything. So naturally he's gonna, you know, come to me with 1,000,001 questions, but it's, you know, it teaches recovery has taught me patience with him. Recovery has taught me to give myself some grace, because mom guilt for me is a real fucking thing. And it just is. And, you know, there's like, I'm like, God, am I doing it right? Is this, you know, did I say the right thing? Should I have handled that situation better? But I'm doing the best that I can with what I have, just like my parents did. And it's like, that's all you can do. Like, there's no manual for it. But today I may not have a manual, but I have recovery, you know, like I have something to fall back on. And he's only 6, got a long way to go. But it's, you know I'm not alone. I don't have to do it alone. And that is the gift of recovery, is you all. Like, I know that I know without a doubt, there's at least someone, if not in this room, in this entire convention, that has been through what I am or what I may go through in the future. And that kind of gives me some peace in raising him, because like I said, I got a long way to go. But I'm very thankful to be here and to and the kind of like full circle back to that generational curse of, you know, I tell him every day that I love him. You know what I mean? It's a verbal thing in our house now. It's you know, I love you, mama, and you know, I love you, mom, I love you, dad. We give hugs, you know, it's different. And that's something really cool. Oh, sorry, that was my back. But that's all I got. I hope. Thank you. Or we just got something out of it. That's all I ask. It's just one thing.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. How long was that? Oh, I did pretty good.
Nice. Oh, now I kind of wish I would have gone first.
Oh, shit.
My name's Andrew. I'm an addict. I have this cheat sheet here because I'm a psychopath. I'm not gonna read it at you, but I will. I'll start talking about the most random shit, and we'll be here 45 minutes later, and who knows what I'll be saying. So this will
We
keep
got
me.
45 minutes left.
That's great. This will keep me on topic and in the message. I'm grateful to be here today. I'm grateful that y'all are here. You know, this is my first NA convention. It's funny. Yeah. It's funny. I like, this is my first day here, and I was thinking about back in 2015. I went to, it was like the International AA convention that was at the Georgia World Congress Center. And I was all stoked to be there, and I was like, yes. And there's like people fucking everywhere, and the Congress Center is huge, and there's just all these people, and I was like, this is like the energy. This is awesome, man. And then they were all smiling, and they were all laughing, and I was by myself, and I was like, oh my God, they all know each other. And I don't know any of them. Like, oh, this is terrible, you know, like this is fucking awful. And I was like, I was so alone, man, you know, and it's such a stark contrast because coming in here and like talking with Maura, like, you know, we just met, but I feel so connected. And I feel so connected to the people here that I do know and that I love. And the people that I don't know, I feel connected to, you know, I mean, like, that's one of the most amazing things about this fellowship, man. It's just like, we just exude fucking love everywhere. You know, we throw up love all over everything that we do. And I love that. You know, I need that today. I need you guys to love me today. So I'm very grateful. So in talking about parenthood, you know, I really kind of kicked this over for a little while. And for me, like when I speak, I try to come out of the literature a lot because I find that the literature in Narcotics Anonymous really mirrors my experience very well. And so a lot of what I'm talking about, what I want to say, I pulled from this, the section on being a parent and living clean. So I feel like, you know, those quotes, I frame my experience around that, and then whatever I say happens.
Yes.
And one of the things that I love, you know, it just started out with, and like Maura was saying, like the literature tells us there's no model for a recovering addict, right? There's no model for a recovering parent. You know, what works for me might not work for you. And family looks so different to everybody. And parenthood is such an individual and personal thing. And like, our kids are all fucking different, man. You know, at the end of the day, this is about relationships, right? This is about me building a relationship with my kids. I grew up in an alcoholic home. My parents were, you know, both heavy drinkers. And my mom was one of these people who, like, one day she just woke up and she was like, I'm tired of it. And she put it down, and she hasn't had a drink since, when I was like 7 years old. And my dad tried to do the same thing and he couldn't. And he went to treatment when I was 8 or 9. You know, I love that you said, you know, your parents did the best that they could with what they had. And that is very much how I feel about my parents today. You know, that they loved me the best that they could. They were sick people, you know, it's a really cool thing. You know, my dad he got sober in AA, and he still does meetings to this day. He actually just celebrated 24 years last week, which is a really cool thing. You know, it's a cool thing now. When my dad first got sober, it did not feel very cool, right? My mom was like very much a hover mother. When they got over it, right? And we were done talking about it, you know, and we didn't want to start dissecting what happened, you know, the years prior. And it's not like I had like a very traumatic experience, you know, I was, I guess, like mild alcoholism, right? I don't know if like you can like be mildly traumatized by alcoholic parents, but you know, they weren't having it, you know. They were like, we're looking to the future, we're moving on, you know. And my mom was very much like kind of a hover mother, and she spoiled me. And my dad was like, he's fucking mean, you know. He was angry when he first got sober. I was angry when I first got clean, you know. I get that. I didn't get it so much when I was 8 or 9, but like today I get it. But like, I say that because I had a really good role model, right? When I came to Narcotics Anonymous, and like when things started really falling apart in my life, that like I had my dad, you know. I know what this looks like. I saw this in my household. And I became friends with my dad. Like, as he grew emotionally, like I became really close with him. You know, I say that also to say that like, so when I started, I got clean very young. I got clean 19 years old. When things went south, you know, my dad was he was 10 years clean. And he worked really hard on his recovery and maintained his spiritual maintenance. And he set very firm, loving boundaries for me. And I feel very grateful for that example today, right? That like, you know, whatever happened in the past happened, but like when I needed help, like he knew how to love me, and he knew how to say no, you know? So Mother's Day, I got clean. My clean day is May 16th, 2008. And so it was right after Mother's Day. Mother's Day 2008, I went to visit my parents, and we were sitting on the back porch, and my mom was like, look, you know, you can go back to treatment. I'd already been in treatment once, and it wasn't for me. It was like, you can go back to treatment, and we'll help you. You know, we will help you figure out whatever financial jams you're in, whatever you got going on. We will make it work. If you do not go to treatment, we are no longer going to financially support you, and we're no longer going to emotionally support you. We're done. And I always love to say that whenever I speak, because my response to that is, give me a week to think about it, right? And it's funny, right? It's funny because like you all connect with how sick I was.
Mm-hmm.
That like when faced with the bitter ends, like jails, institutions, or death, or find a new way to live, I'm like,
Ooh.
oh yeah, like, can I think about it? Like, I don't feel good about this. And I recognize, you know, today, being a parent, being recovering, being able to see my parents through a whole new, you know, set of lenses, I recognize how hard that must have been, you know, how much I must have hurt my parents when they're like putting out a lifeline, you know, thinking like, this is it. This is fucking it, man. And I'm just like, I don't know. You know, I try to connect with that stuff today. So I got clean, and you know, this relationship with my parents was really great in that, like, you know, my dad was 10 years clean, and it was like awesome, and I lived with them, and I had this great role model and all of that. And you know, it's interesting thinking about this, like over the last couple of years, my parents and I have kind of grown apart as we've transitioned into the role of like from mom and dad to grandpa and grandma. And as like I've grown in my life, like we just find ourselves drifting apart. You know, in thinking about like all the stuff about being a parent, the things that they taught me, like I'm so fucking grateful today for all of the hard work that my parents put into raising me, you know, and the lessons that they gave me about like what recovery looks like. So I became a dad in 2017. I have two daughters, Allie and Noelle. Allie is almost 5. Noelle is just over 3. They're total psychopaths, just like me. And I guess, yeah, just to qualify that, right? Like I have 2 young kids. I'm married. My wife was a teacher and a stay-at-home mom. I could not be more blessed with like a human who knows so well how to raise my children, and is just like such an amazing partner and an amazing mother, and just like she just knows, right? I'm always like, what the fuck do we do? And she's like, well, we just do this. Like, oh, okay. Who would have known, right? I don't really remember much about becoming a dad besides like one thing that really stands out to me was when we brought Allie, my oldest, home from the hospital, how quiet it was. It's funny. That's like the first thing that I remember about becoming a parent was like, you're in the hospital and there's all the machines and everybody's checking on you. And like, everybody's so happy. Like, hey, how's it going, y'all? First baby. Oh, it's so exciting. Okay. I'll see you later, mom. You good? And then like you get home and it's just like fucking silent, you know, and there's nobody checking in on us. And it's just like, oh my God, this is it, you know? And I was terrified, right? Like, so much of this was just like fucking fear driven for me. But like very much we became a pack very quickly, the 3 of us, right? And like it, you know, I don't know how it happened, but it just happened, right? And it's a really amazing thing. There's this line in Living Clean: we get so caught up in our theories and expectations of what it means to be a parent that we forget it's a relationship. And I love that, right? I love that about like first time parenting, being a new parent, because like it's so easy. It was so easy for me to get lost in like, you know, sleep training and like bottle feeding versus breastfeeding, like all this shit. And I'm just like there's so much information, there's so many resources, there's so much, and I forget that it is all about a relationship. And that the first thing that I have to do is like, I just have to show up for this kid. You know, the first thing that I have to do is just like, be her dad, you know? And like, that's something that I learned from you guys, right? Like I learned how to have a healthy relationship in Narcotics Anonymous. You know, you guys showed me how to do it by coming here and like getting a sponsor, working steps and engaging in this program. Right? Like you guys show me what these relationships look like. And so it was a great, you know, 11 months with Allie, and then we decided to do it again, and we got pregnant with my second daughter, Noelle. That, you know, it's funny, like we had Noelle in 2019, and I was like not in a great place in my recovery, right? Like I was not doing meetings like I was supposed to. I didn't really have a network. I had a home group that I went to, you know, once, I don't know, like every couple of weeks, but like my work was more important. Everything was more important. You know, I could always find something to put in front of my recovery. It showed. I was punchy, you know, I was irritable, I was fucking angry. And I acted out a lot, you know. So when Noelle was born, I was selfish, you know. It's funny if like, you know, Allie was so like roses and stuff like that. And being a newborn with Noelle, I felt selfish, and I would steal naps. You know, I'd sleep longer than I was supposed to. And I'm supposed to be, you know, watching my 18-month-old. And just like, I couldn't bring myself to do it. You know, I couldn't bring myself to show up. All I could think about was myself. It was hard. You know, my wife, she had some complications during labor that like, you know, it was hard for her. Noelle had jaundice really bad, and you know, we ended up going to Choa and spending the night in the hospital there, and like it was just all different, you know. And if you've ever been in the hospital with your kid before, it fucking sucks, right? And it's just full of fear. And I'll never forget, you know, putting her in this little fucking aquarium with blue lights all over the place, and she's just this little teeny yellow thing, and she's screaming and just feeling so powerless, experiencing my powerlessness in such a profound way of just like, fuck, how do I get out of this? How do I handle this? When we were in the hospital, we got the fucking stomach flu, right? And so came home from Choa, and all of a sudden my older one starts puking, and the next thing I know, I'm puking. You know, it's funny. I was telling my friend Justin earlier, I have this weird memory of like, so we're like in the hospital, we come home and the little one starts getting sick. And then all of a sudden I start getting sick, and like everything is miserable. I feel like my life is crashing down. I was like, we lived in this house, like the bathroom was like down the hall from my oldest room. And I went and I started puking, and my little one, she poked her head out of the hallway and started laughing at me. It's just like this weird connection of just like, okay, like this is parenthood, right? Like my 18-month-old laughing at me while I throw up. You know, I remember this night shortly afterwards where, you know, Noelle had trouble sleeping. She didn't seem to want to sleep. And I would like rub her belly, right? I would like jiggle her belly. It would help her go to sleep. And I can remember one night, I was trying to get her to go to sleep and she just wouldn't, right? And I started rubbing harder, and it was just like, I got to get this kid to go to sleep, right? I'm sleep deprived. I'm so fucked up. I got to get her to go to sleep. And, you know, the next thing I know, I like catch myself, right? In that moment of like, oh my God, like I'm about to lose control. You know, I'm sitting here like rubbing this kid's belly, like I'm about to lose it, you know? Shortly after that, this weird incident where she was swaddled, and I picked her up and I forgot to support her head just because I was a crazy sleep deprived new dad. And her neck, you know, she did one of those things. And it was just all of these experiences. And every time I looked at her, all I saw was my failure. You know, I was so disconnected from this stuff from Narcotics Anonymous at the time. And I was just so alone. And every time I looked at this little kid, it was just like, I'm just such a fuck up. And, you know, it says in this parenting section, self-loathing is just another form of self-obsession and blinds us to the needs of the person in front of us, right? I can hate myself so much sometimes and get so lost in what's going on up here that I don't know how to show up. I don't know how to show up for them. And I didn't know what to do, and the people in my home group, like, when I showed up and I shared it, and it was great, but like, none of them were really married. They weren't parents. And, thank God that, like, there were some people in my life at that time who were able to love me until I could love myself the same way that you guys do. Right. And I found myself a group of people who were willing to listen to me and say, like, okay, we've been there. Right. I know what it means to, like, just want anything for your kid to shut the fuck up and go to sleep. Right. I know what it means when that crying grates at you and you feel like, I can't listen to it one more second. I can't hear it. I'll go crazy. Right. Those people that, they love me until I could love myself. The principle of open-mindedness helps us to remain teachable and to look for teachers all around us, right? Like, when I can put aside self-obsession, when I can put aside my self-loathing and really try to treat my disease a little bit, all of a sudden I'm teachable and I can engage in open-mindedness and willingness. And I don't need to say, the message is going to come from you. Say it, it comes from anywhere. It comes from the most random fucking places, and it saves my life. You guys have saved my life over and over and over again over the last 14 years. And so, I survived Noel being a newborn and things got better. But, I still wasn't really engaging in my program. And, winter 2020, like, shit kind of hit the fan for me. And I had kind of this come to Jesus moment where, like, I really had, like, a hard reset of my recovery in February 2020. And then COVID happened, and it was, like, fucking amazing, man. And it's like, HP works in our lives in such really crazy ways sometimes. But, like, I was at this point with, like, I don't know, 12, almost 13 years clean. And I felt like a newcomer again. And I was having to do all the shit that I did when I first came in of, like, I have to go to meetings. I have to put myself out there to people. I have to, like, talk on the phone. I hate that. Go up to another man and ask you for your phone number. Please no. Please don't make me do that. But man, like, I was, I lost my job in March of 2020. And I was able, I was fortunate enough to be able to still financially support us for a couple of months. And I was, really deep diving into the steps. I was meeting with my sponsor over Zoom, and all of a sudden I was able to show up for my kids in a way that I hadn't ever in their lives. It says, perhaps most importantly, we learned that when we can get our self-obsession out of the way, we experience love, compassion, empathy, and intimacy. As we make peace with ourselves, we find peace with those around us, including our children. When we practice self-acceptance, we can accept our children as the human beings that they are. When I treat my disease, right, when I do the things that you guys tell me that I need to do, like, all of a sudden, my 4-year-old being a 4-year-old is okay. And when she asks all the fucking questions, because she asks all the fucking questions, that's okay, and I can lean into that, and I don't need to try to correct that. I don't need to do anything with that. And it was such a cool experience, man, of, like, being in, like, COVID-19 hell in, April, May 2020, and it seemed like the world was falling down around me. And for the first time in my life, I experienced this true freedom as a parent. And really connected with what that freedom is, and transmitting that to somebody else. Says here, but even the best parents may have times when they're not so sure that they like their kids. We are human. We are not our child's higher power. And there are times when just not doing the next wrong thing is the best we can manage. Our frustration and our fear can lead us to respond in ways we think we have grown past. We aren't perfect, but we are getting better. We start by not doing harm and find that we can do a lot of good if we are willing to try. There's a lot of different ways that I show up for my kids, right? And sometimes that's really good, and it's like super NA dad, and I'm just, like, so full of fun and wisdom and, like, yeah, dad's fucking great, like, this is awesome. And sometimes I'm impatient, and sometimes I'm kind of mean, like, I start barking orders. And you know, sometimes I'm not very present with them. You know, I'm still susceptible to that self-obsession of like, when I want something and I start chasing something and all of a sudden they're right in front of me like, dad, dad, dad. And I'm like, oh, no, I got this thing. I can't. And that's okay. You know, that's okay today. It's okay sometimes that I fuck up, right? You know, I connect with the fact today that by just showing up, you know, I'm already broken that cycle like Maura was talking about, right? That by coming to a meeting of Narcotics Anonymous, by coming to the convention, by all of us being here tonight, like that cycle's getting broken, you know? You know, and that is like, that's me doing right by my kids, you know? Working a program of recovery keeps us from getting drawn into our self-obsession and helps us see when we're recreating old patterns that we don't want to carry on to the next generation. Simply living lives of honesty and integrity sets a pattern for change. Our example teaches our children more than our words ever can. You know, when we were talking before the meeting, it's like, I think about all of these things, these ways that my kids show up, and I'm just like fucking blown away by how mature, you know, my 4 almost 5-year-olds can be. My daughter Allie, she has this thing sometimes where she says, Dad, I'm just feeling a little bit frustrated. And it blows my mind. You know, it blows my mind. All I know how to be is angry. All I know how to do is rage. I only experience my emotions on like 0 or 10. And she's just like this little thing of like, you know, I'm just frustrated, Dad. And like, wow, I can just allow you to be frustrated, Allie. Yeah, it is such a cool fucking thing. You know, and I get to see my kids act in ways that I know that that's an example that, you know, my wife and I set for them. And it's the example that I learned here from you guys, right? My Allie just quit sucking her thumb recently. And I was like, I get that. I get the ease and comfort that comes from popping that thumb in your mouth and like, it's all good. You know, it is all good. Like, I know that fucking feeling. I know how hard it is when it's like, oh, there it goes. Nope, can't do it. Like, oh, there it goes. Like, God, I'll do anything to suck my thumb, you know, please. I connect with that shit today, you know. I know that like, those are lessons that she learns from us, you know. We learn to adapt our beliefs to reality, check our behavior, and use the tools we learn in NA to build a family that we're glad to be a part of. That's what it is today. You know, I try to let my kids be where they're at. You know, I adapt my beliefs to reality. When I want them to be different, I remember that she's almost 5, she's 3. They're just always going to be 5 and 3 right now. You know, and that's okay. I just have to allow that. What I need to do, I check our behavior, right? I have to check my behavior and my reactions to them. How am I showing up? Am I being willing? Am I being tolerant? Am I open-minded? Do I have any spiritual principles in the way that I interact with my kids right now? The other day, my little one wanted to climb into her car seat by herself, and it was really cold outside in the morning. And we had to go to school when we were late. And I was like, just get in the fucking car seat. And she started screaming at me because she wanted to do it herself. And I was like, Noelle, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. And it's like in moments like that, right? Like these little moments of like, man, I have to check my behavior. I can't say like, you need to be fucking different, 3-year-old, you know? I have to get on board with her, you know? And remember that like, she's just being 3 and she wants to climb in the fucking car seat, man. Chill out. Like, she's not going to court. Like, she's going to fucking preschool. You know, like, what are you doing? You know, and use the tools, right? The tools that you guys taught me, which are the same things that they were when I first came into the rooms, right? Of like, I have to be engaging in meetings. I have to be working with my sponsor. I have to work the steps. I have to talk with newcomers. I have to stick to the literature. I have to stick in the literature. I have to be in the middle of the fucking bed, right? I've got to secure my oxygen mask first before I secure theirs, 100% of the time. Like the self-care is the key to it today.
Yes.
No matter what. So I think that's all I got. Thanks for letting me share.
That's good. Yeah.
Thank y'all so much. That was
Well,
awesome.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
So we got some
Oh,
minutes
my
left.
eyes
I'm gonna open
itching.
it up if anybody wants
So
to
bad.
share on parenting or where you're at.
Hey there, I'm Alina and I'm an addict.
Hi, Lena.
I wish I could have heard you guys 20 years ago. You have got the shit going on. I am just absolutely blown away and enamored and honored to have heard you. So thank you for
Oh,
so
thank
much for what you guys offered.
Thanks, Lena.
Thank you.
Glad you're here.
Me too.
Go ahead.
You think of that?
Hey,
So parenting is hard, especially when I'm so immature. You know, so I remember, so I had 5 kids.
Oh. Yeah.
I started using like really early, you know, like as like an adolescent. And so I had people in my life that like were good examples, but I didn't have any lived experience with like being an adult. And I got clean when I was 32. And I was in treatment when I was 15. So there's that whole like span of like unmanageability and the progression of the disease and all of the just all of the wreckage that goes with that. And I had my first kid when I was 21. And I'd just gotten out of prison and I was staying with my sister, and there was this cute girl next door to her. And you know, we had a kid. And that's just kind of how things went. And I was like shocked that we had a kid. She wasn't on birth control. We were having sex, and I was like, it won't happen to me. Just basic human biology. It's literally how it works. You know? And I'm just so irresponsible, you know. And I have 5 kids, 4 different women, and this is like my life, you know. And I remember like all of my kids being born, and I remember thinking that this is going to change, and it did, you know, like it did. When I had my first son, I quit making such high risk decisions, but I was still like using, and I was still like, you know, all this stuff, you know. And when I got into recovery, I was 32, and it was just all this wreckage, you know. And at 2 years clean, I got full custody of my oldest 2 girls because their mom was who she was and making the decisions with the guidance and the direction of my sponsor and the support of people in the fellowship. And like I didn't know, like they were 11 and 12 when I got them, and they're girls, and it was like terrifying. But I also knew that I had a responsibility to my kids, right? And like I'm having conversations about like menstrual cycles and shit. Google search, you know. But there were like ladies in the fellowship that showed up for my kids. You know what I'm saying? Like my kids would show up, and I would go to my home group on Monday and Wednesday night, and they had a room across the hall from where we met, and they were doing their homework. And if like they needed something, like an experienced member would get up and go over there and like help, you know. And it was just like really cool to see that. And the progression of like my maturity in recovery as to where like people in recovery prepared me to be their dad, you know. And like I could show up and say, I don't know. And I could ask for help. And I could say, I'm sorry. I never like, I thought like if you told your kid you were sorry, like you lost. You know what I mean? Like I had to be right. You know what I mean? And like the ability to show up and say, that was wrong. And I was wrong how I handled that. And I'm so sorry. And like mean it. You know, like work through that stuff, man. And the way that it worked out for me is like, you know, and this was a crazy thing, is like a relationship that I had gotten into when I had about 4 years clean. And this lady I was in a relationship with fucking hated me. And we lived together. And it was this weird place to be in that I'm trying to keep the peace because I want to be in this relationship, but also it's not working for my kids, and my kids are second again. You know what I mean? Just like when I was getting high, and it was like harming my kids. And I made a decision to like not be in that relationship because I couldn't like put my kids like on the back burner. You know what I'm saying? And I decided I wasn't going to be in a relationship for a while. And just like work on being a good dad, and work on being like a good sponsor, and work on being a good sponsor and a good home group member. And there was so much freedom in that like 2 years of just me focusing on being dad, You know what I'm saying? I'm just getting my other kids on the weekend. And what had happened was, I ended up with custody of all 4 of my kids, right? And I have a stepdaughter that I claim, that's why I say I have 5 kids. But I got married and I'm coming up on my 5th-year wedding anniversary. And my wife was like, seriously, it was like, seriously, like God picked my wife. And my wife was a single mom. And she was also a foster parent for several years before we met. So she had a heart for kids. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, I brought 4 kids into this relationship. She brought 1 kid into the relationship. And we got married in 2017. And I know like my decision to be in recovery gave my kids some stability, but I also know that if it weren't for the influence my wife had on my kids, they wouldn't be who they are today. You know what I'm saying? And just like that ability to like, to be a part of that process. And I'm just like, she is like good at it. She's just very intentional at it. And it is about the relationship. I got my oldest daughter now, and they like lost their mom to addiction, right? 6 years ago. And like walking them through that process and like being present. And like, where would my oldest girls be like if I wasn't in recovery? You know? And my oldest daughter is at Kennesaw State University in her 2nd year of social work. You know what I'm saying? And that's not because of me. She did her work, but she was also in therapy, which is really why she wants to be a social worker. You know what I mean? Because I believe in that shit. You know? It has like helped her, and she has worked through some things. And she appreciates my recovery, and you know she gets to see that, but she didn't get to see that. You know? And like it, you know, when COVID hit, it was like I got more time with my family that I wouldn't have had with my daughter that was a senior in high school at the beginning of it, that's now in college. So we had like a whole freaking year to like, we did dinner, we took walks, we had the schedule, right? Where I was intentional to like be present with my kids. And it was like amazing. And it is about the relationship. And I get so like justified in like my perspective. And the biggest thing, and just to make it really simple, is like if my approach with my kids is damaging our relationship, I'm the one that's wrong. You know, and it is about the relationship. My daughter talks to me about shit that I just wish she wouldn't. You know, there's shit my daughter will tell me that I'm like, dude, I'm not the one. You know? But I'm saying on the inside, but I'm just so grateful that she brings this stuff to me because I can just be like, I can see like it's a bad choice she's making or it's high risk or whatever, but she's talking to me about it. And she's asking me what I think about it. And it's like, and I can show up and support my kids today in a way that is like, but I never have, you know? So being dad today, I got 2 kids still at home, 3 have moved out, and I've got 4 daughters, man, you know, and they're all teenagers. And 2 of them are still at home, 16 and 14. And my most recent, like my youngest daughter came to live with us during COVID temporarily for like school, and she just never went back home. Kind of stole her, you know what I mean? And it's awesome. She's been with us like 2.5 years. So like all of my kids, like you're talking about like restoration, you know, in the ability to show up for like what recovery has done. And I mean, I still feel really new in this process. I have 12 years of recovery, but for everything that's happened, it's been a lifetime of change in 12 years. I mean, it is a long time, but for what has happened as far as restoration and like the transformation it's just like a very short amount of time for all that has been like restored, you know? And my wife and I occasionally talk about having a kid because I've never had a child and like not been using, you know, all of my kids have been born in my active addiction. And then we watch somebody's kid and I'm like, probably not. You know what I mean? And that's the way it is right now. But we do talk about like having kids, and that's just on hold for right now. But it may be different, you know. That's the way things are. But you know, it's a really cool thing to be in that relationship with my kids, and they're all so different. They're all like night and day different. And I have one that's just like me, and she's doing really well. And she's obsessive and compulsive, but she's obsessive and compulsive on like good things. And I can like back that, you know, it's not in self-destructive stuff. So grateful to be here. Thank you guys for
thank you.
Your talk. And thank you guys for
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Hank.
Thank you, Hank.
Please join us.
Jason, I'm at.
Hey,
Hey,
Jason.
Jason.
I want to thank you, Maura.
Oh, thank
and
you.
Andrew. I hate getting up in front of people and talking, so, especially when there's a camera and a microphone. And I do have a little bit of experience. I felt it when you talked about, handing your kid over to your mom. The self-obsession. When I was put on child support, I tried to sign my parental rights away so they wouldn't, take my money or took away from my music. And thank goodness in the state of Georgia, you're not allowed to do that. So today I do have a wonderful relationship with my son. When I got clean, I thought that everybody should forgive me, that everything should be water under the bridge. And, my child's mom did not agree with that and did not think that. When I tried to make amends with her, she told me she didn't want to hear my fucking voice, and so I was gonna, do the real responsible thing and take her to court for visitation. But, thank goodness that I talked to my sponsor, and, one of the things that I love about my sponsor is if he didn't have experience in it, he told me to go to his sponsor, go to somebody with experience. And, what they had me do was, he said, write your son a letter and send it in the mail every week, do that consistently. And, so I went to the grocery store and I bought, I think, 15 stamps. And I sent a letter. It was on Mondays. I got a card and I wrote a little something in it. Sometimes I'd put a gift card in there, tell him to take his mom out to dinner or something. And when I had 3 stamps left, his mom called and said, I want you to be there for your son, and it's really what it is. It's just consistency. I say I'm going to be there, and and I show up when I need to be, and the trust is restored. It didn't happen in my time. It happened just whatever time it had to be. But today, he comes over. I don't have my son. I have him every other weekend. He comes over every other weekend. I do have a 21-year-old who lives with me now, and with the parenting now, the guilt. At first he was like, Dad, I just, because I wasn't around when I was using. I was not there when my kids were little. So there was, at first my oldest son was like, Dad, I just want you to be here. And I was like, man, that's awesome. But, then the pink cloud or whatever, the honeymoon went over, and, he kind of got pissed off, and I had to let him be there. Because, I put myself in a position to be harmed at a later date by causing the harms that I did. And I got to let people, when I make these amends, I asked my sponsor asked me one time, he goes, why do we make amends? And, I try to get real philosophical with him and come up with a real smart answer. And he goes, it's because we owe them, and it's because I'm trying to, it's not about the forgiveness, but it's, trying to make right what I did wrong. And with that, my son, he's an anime guy and, video gamer, and I'm not into that kind of stuff, but I got to try to meet him where he's at, because I do cherish the time that we do get to spend together. So for me, I'm 44 years old, and I'm learning to be a father now. My parents, they're still together. I had a great upbringing. My dad worked the same job for 45 years. He just recently retired. So, things that I saw, I'm finally able to implement those things, and so now it's with my oldest son, it's teaching him that, you work hard, you don't get nothing for free, you got to earn what you got. So, it's a different kind of being a parent, but that's all I got.
Thank you. Oh.
Chad on that.
Hey, Chad.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I don't.
Come up.
Come on up, Chad.
Come up.
Only because I know more, that's all.
So, yeah, I have 3 kids that all 3 different women. My last kid, he's mine. He's biologically mine, but I've raised him since he came out of the womb. Yeah, so I have a 25-year-old, no shit, 26-year-old, 16-year-old, and about to have a 6-year-old, Ben and 6-year-old. So, yeah, like I was around my kids growing up. My oldest before Ben was born. I was there, but I was hot. I was fucked up. I see him, but I just run around when I'm just raising hell and whatnot. I was there, but I wasn't a father. So, I'm over that. I don't really live in guilt for that because I've always had relationships with both of them kids. So when Ben was born, his mother was an addict too. She's in prison right now. So basically, I got my clean date's 7/2/2018. So Ben was born in 2016 in July. And she put him up for adoption. You have 10 days to change your mind. At the 8th day, she changed her mind. But we was both using. She used all through her pregnancy. It came out healthy, thank goodness. And I think she put him up for adoption just because she didn't want defects of it. So she changed her mind, which is fine. She asked me, I was like, yeah, let's do it. But we're still using, still living that bullshit life. And she got locked up when he was 6 months. Her mother was on drugs, but like I said, he wasn't by the policy time. So I went to the jail. She signed the form with another reason. I had custody of her. So that was some bullshit with her mother. Living in a fast lane, taking care of him. Like I said, I was supporting him and taking care of everything, but like I said, I was hot. So she gets out, goes back to jail. She's in and out of jail. So she gets out. So I get locked up in July 2nd. That's like that. I get locked up July 2nd, 2018. Go to jail. She's out, so she takes him. I had a bunch of cases of probation violation. My lawyer got them all put together at the same time. He said you can get a 3-year sentence suspended on 4 months for your rehab. So that wasn't no rocket science. So I took the rehab, of course. Stayed 2 months in jail. Went straight from jail to a rehab. That's when I changed my life. That's when I was introduced to Narcotics Anonymous. And what helped me a lot was I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. When I went my first NME, I went like when I got out of jail. I seen a lot of people I knew from the streets in there, so that gave me a lot of hope. Since. But anyways, moral of the story is, I think even though Ben is not mine, I think Ben. So okay, let me go back. So I'm in rehab for 2 months. I really don't have any curfew. I mean, I have a curfew, but I really don't have any like free time because they gradually give you free time. All I could do was go to work. So I was in rehab. I got out on August 18th. November 5th, his mom gets busted. At the time, her mom's clean now. She's in drug court, so she's been clean for like 6 months. So Benny goes to her, thank God. Thank God she was clean, and thank God he had somewhere to go. Because I had my hands were tied. I couldn't do anything because I had to do the rehab. So So then I started getting passes. I started getting them every weekend. Taking me back over there. She was still doing good. Completely rehab. And I moved back in with my mother. Going to work. And he's still standing over there. And he really wanted to live with me, but I just didn't want to break that up because I didn't want to, you know, really send her off she's an addict. So I didn't want to fuck her recovery up. So anyways.
Excuse me,
Just went over
just a
for about a
reminder,
year.
if you could wrap up soon, that'd be great. Thank
Oh,
you.
sorry. So
No worries.
the moral of the story is I ended up getting Ben. I got Ben 4 times. She got back on drugs. So basically, I think this is why I found a higher power this year. I've been in recovery 2.5 years, finally found a higher power. Anyways, from Narcotics and but it told me, I think Ben, even though he's not mine, I think he put him in my life to basically help me stay clean. He has nobody. I'm the only person he has. His mother's in prison, like I said. And I thank Narcotics Anonymous for allowing me to actually the steps. I've been getting in the steps a lot. So here lately, I mean, I've been slow, but I'm starting to get the fucking message about steps. So basically, the higher powers really helped me. It's helped me with patience with him. And like I said, he's only 5 fucking years old. Like sometimes I have to walk outside and just bite my tongue because he asks a lot of questions. And all that, like y'all was saying. But anyways, I'm thankful for Narcotics Anonymous. Thank y'all for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you for everybody else to share. Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
All right, I'll whatever.
I'm Jean, I'm still an addict. Would
Hey, Jean.
anyone else like to share?
Yes, I have to go
My name is Raphael, I'm an addict. This parenting thing is like somebody forgot to give me the little booklet of how to parent. And if they give it, I forgot to read or was in a different language. I have a 13-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. And unfortunately, due to my addiction, I was the weekend parent for the first 9 years of their lives. And now I'm trying to make up for lost time, you know, and I know that, you know, my daughter just told me this week that she hates me. And like, my mind was like, it's not because she's 13 and she lost a volleyball game and her brother was getting on her nerves. It's because I wasn't the parent that she wanted me to be when she needed me. I was very grateful that she had a grandma, which is her idiot's father's mother, excuse my language. You know, grandma was their rock and still is their rock, you know, and she told me that like, you know, I wish she never took me away from grandma and I wish I still was there and blah, 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 blah. And it like something click or flip at that moment. And it's so unhealthy right now because like this happened, I think Tuesday. And now I see myself giving up to her once. And as a mother who works in the medical field with other children, I know that like, that's not it. That's not it. She's 13. She's upset. And, you know, and I have my son and like, I see all these dynamic of my son wanted to be like, this Captain Save Our Mommy and be like, you know, mom is my hero. Like, you don't talk to mom like that because I'm gonna punch you. And my daughter's like, but I want my daddy. And daddy's not there. And it's just this whole clusterfuck, excuse my language. And I'm just so grateful that like, I'm doing the best that I can with what I have, you know. I cannot do more than I'm already doing. And two, like, as much as she talks about her dad, I look at her dad as like, it could be so much worse for me. Like I could be the parent that's not having a phone because got too high and dropped on the river because he thought that whatever else, doesn't matter. You know, I could be that parent right now. And I keep having to tell myself like, I'm doing the best I can. But like one thing that I hated that my mother did that I see myself doing, I want to buy her love. You know, I want to buy things, you know, I want to do whatever she wants because if I'm the cool mom and I give her things, she's not gonna hate me. She doesn't hate me. She gonna like me more. And, you know, and then I have a wonderful sponsor that tells me, you know, that's not the way to parent a child. You know, that's not the answer right there. But like, I know we all parents here, like my babies are my life. Like if it wasn't for those kids, I don't think I would be standing here because I would be dead. But sometimes I realize that my children, it's not their job to save my life. Like that's too much of responsibility for somebody that's so young. So I guess I'm in this dilemma of, you know, I really was listening to you guys a lot to like, instead of buying presents, be present.
Wow.
And meet her where she's at, meet them where they at, and their relationship will be what it will be, you know. And knowing, coming from a family that my mother wasn't really there to mental illness, that as a 30-plus-year-old woman, the only thing I wish I had was my mom, even at 30+ years old. And I wish I had a dad, which I cannot be her dad. I can be her mom. And I guess that's all I have to say. Sorry, it was a little bit negative.
No, thank you, Rafael.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ellen.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
You're still at it.
Hey,
Hey, Jeannie.
Jeannie.
One quick announcement, I guess, or maybe a couple. As our 11th tradition states, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press and films. The primary purpose of our public relations effort is to tell the story of Narcotics Anonymous and what our program offers to the still suffering addict. Many of the press are often attracted to our convention and we welcome their interest. However, we do not disclose our last names in the media as identifiable members of Narcotics Anonymous. If members of the press approach you, please direct them to a member of the convention planning panel, board of directors, or public relations committee. Smoking is only allowed in designated smoking areas. If you have any questions on where to find these areas, please see a member of the convention planning panel. These members can be identified by a blue committee ribbon on their shirts. We still have raffle tickets available, and I think there's a dance night and banquet tomorrow. So let's circle up, anyone that would like to join us, and we will close with the read version of the surrender prayer. Those online are welcome to invite to unmute and join our prayer as well.
Oh, thank you. Doesn't matter. Yeah, let the circle represent what we do together. silence for the sick and souls are praying.
God, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Thank y'all so much.
Oh, thank you so much.